Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the channel where we watch Vic mess with his microphone.
Oh, the microphone is messing with me. I'm not messing with it, all right? I got it perfectly in place, and then I start talking, and it starts discombobulating. It feels very much like it might be possessed by
You
something.
just had your hands all over that mic shaft, okay?
Maybe my hand's possessed then. I don't hands, baby.
No.
So all that to say, we saw this movie in theaters, and I think both me and Nick expected. Well, I didn't know what to expect, but I thought this was going to be more like horror slasherous and less romantic comedy-ish. And I think it was the opposite. I think, in my opinion, this movie leans more romantic comedy and less on the horror. And the horror feels like it's like there's a cameo of a killer. There's like it's going on in the background. But I feel like the fun and the comedy and the romance, I think that's kind of like more what we got, which not saying it's a bad thing. I'm just saying I think that it leans a little bit more in that direction, in my opinion.
Yeah, it definitely does. I mean, at this point, because now that it's on Netflix, me and my wife went ahead and watched it for me to get ready for this, and I told her the only horror in this is the very first 10 minutes. The rest is romantic comedy, and then you get thriller slash action mixed in because it feels more like an action movie at a lot of points in this damn part than it does horror. And then, of course, the romantic comedy thing, you feel that all the way throughout this movie.
And let's be honest, that first 10 minutes is also hilarious. So they're throwing a lot of comedy. That first 10 minutes feels like a parody of like a horror movie, basically. It feels like they're parodying the idea of a killer killing this stupid couple who is just too stupid to be believable. I thought this was like somebody watching a movie. I thought it would cut back to like our main characters maybe watching this movie in theaters and be like, what a cheesy romantic comedy. It doesn't didn't feel like real people. I was like, there's no way this is actually happening.
Well, I
But
mean, of course, it doesn't feel like real people. They were rich, privileged people. I mean, you had the girl who obviously planned this so much that she mouthed the words to this guy, so they scripted it. I'm assuming he had already, of course, asked her out. She had already said yes, and then she told him, "But I want to do it publicly. I want to do something for our followers because you can definitely tell these are influencers."
right.
And I don't know about you, but with the person that got to take the picture, I wish they would have just got Brad Dourif instead of this Brad Dourif knockoff.
It looks like him, right? And if you're the photographer or videographer, I mean, you do only have one job there to get right. So this
Right.
dude's
So
screwing
then
up.
all of a
So
sudden it's like, hey man, sorry, there's a glare. I'm like, wait a minute. What do you mean glare? You're supposed it's your job to find the best spot to put the camera, best spot. I mean, they already are there putting on a performance. You might as well just go ahead and put the damn camera right in front of them.
yeah. Well, unfortunately, he won't have to worry about future gigs. Improving the fact that he sucks at his job is not really going to be a factor into his future career opportunities because he gets killed right here a moment later.
Oh yeah, he gets a machete straight through the camera, straight into his eyeball. Where have I seen that before?
It seemed very familiar.
Seemed very Jason-ish. In fact, this killer actually feels like an amalgamation of Ghostface and Jason throughout this whole movie.
And the guy from Valentine.
No,
What? That's
not
who he
at all.
reminded me of. So, um,
You know why? Because this movie is definitely a lot better than Valentine.
it's different though. Valentine did go for more straight horror for the most part, so it's kind of different. I don't know. This feels more like in the sort of Happy Death Day universe, like Freaky. All those movies are kind of like that new age horror film where it's like it's sort of horror, but it's mostly leaning into the comedy, and it has that same sense of humor. Those movies, so
That's fair. Granted, I still have not seen Happy Death Day. Freaky can go die in a hole.
which is shocking to me because you even like what was the other one that was similar to Happy Death Day that we watched?
Totally Killer.
Yeah, you like that, and you like this Heart's Eyes. It's almost gonna be impossible for you not to like Happy Death Day because it's just.
I haven't seen it.
Well, that's what I'm saying. You should watch it. It's like the holy grail of this genre, if this is a thing. Anyways, opening scene though is actually there's a cool death there with what happens to the woman at the end. Also, gotta feel bad for the was it a security guard or a cop?
Yeah, security guard he's just there patrolling the winery, and then all of a sudden just get in wrong place, wrong time, man.
The way he dies makes the killer look like a complete badass, though. It makes him look like John Wick, which I don't think adds up to what we see later on, but I guess.
So, I don't. I think we should probably. I should probably hold off on my thoughts of the ending until we get to that point. But yeah, then this girl decides the best place to hide is in a grape crusher, so that way they can, obviously get the juices out of the grapes to make this wine.
Well, maybe there's
better places to hide in that whole factory.
Maybe this has more in common with Valentine than we think, because I do remember a certain somebody at the beginning of Valentine hiding themselves in a body bag, which is still the worst hiding spot running from a killer.
I was about to say, let's face it. At least if she just didn't make any noise, because I don't think he's really noticed she was in there until she started moving around again.
Yeah.
So let's face it, that's on her. But yeah, at least it's a better hiding spot than damn body bag.
Well, Valentine, that's going to be on top of the list of stupidest hiding spots to hide from a killer ever. I don't think
she's just lucky it wasn't like John Carpenter telling her story in the Body Bags movie.
We'll cut to meeting basically our main character,
Jay and Allie. Or wait,
well, Jay's the guy.
Yeah, Jay and Allie, the guy and the girl. So funny thing, obviously we recognize Jay immediately. It's kind of hard not to recognize damn Chad.
Yeah,
but
Mason did it.
The one I should have recognized because we literally just mentioned the movie she was in, Totally Killer. That was young Pam.
I didn't recognize her either. This is Olivia Holt. Was her name?
Olivia Holt.
I didn't put together either. I did not put together this was Totally Killer Girl.
Well, then again, you can definitely tell they're going for more of the girl next door type look for her in this movie, whereas in the previous movie, in Totally Killer, she was in a sense the bitch of the movie. So she has that type of mentality. She has to hold herself differently than she holds herself in this movie. It's just she does look like she has a different look to her, and that's because of the way she has to act.
Yeah, and I mean, listen, the odds of them both having the same damn coffee order to that precise thing. I mean, come on, that's like...
Well, remember, according to the barista, it's a very common order, actually.
And there's no way. Impossible.
And of course, we get our this movie's full of making fun of cliches, I'll say, because you get those romantic comedies where the character accidentally butting their head and it's supposed to be a cute little thing. Not really supposed to laugh about it. You're supposed to go, "Aw." No, this one, they do it in such a way that the entire theater was laughing when we were there.
Yeah.
Especially when she comes up and just breaks his nose.
Yeah, I mean, oddly enough, I said it leans romantic comedy, and I think most of the comedy works. So I think the two leads here, they have a good chemistry. They're likable characters, and I think that part's working. But I'll have some issues later on with, does any of the slasher horror stuff work? And I don't know. But I do like just them interacting and the fun chemistry they have, the romantic comedy, how do I answer this? The romantic at heart. I mean, usually guys are drug these type of movies with their girlfriends. I was in the theater here with Nick Arcana, so try to get myself in the zone of like, okay, this is not as scary as I'm expecting. This is definitely leaning more romantic comedy-ish. Let me try to get in that mode. And once I
And
bought into
people, I
that,
was wearing a Terrifier shirt while coming to see this movie, not like not like a shirt with a giant heart on it.
oh,
So
so I was on board with their chemistry. Also, I like the
the friend.
best friend character. I mean, in hindsight, one complaint coming out of the theater was like, I feel like she was almost underutilized. But I feel like also maybe if she had been on screen too much, maybe she actually would become annoying. So maybe it was like she was best served in like a small serving. But it did feel like she could have been more involved though as the movie goes on. She's pretty much disappears from the movie for the most of it.
Yeah, but since I think we said everything we wanted about the romantic part of this. I'm not a really romantic kind of person. So let's get to them being
Wait,
attacked. In
wait,
what?
wait, 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 wait,
What?
wait. Your wife may watch this. I'm just saying, you want to take that back about not being a romantic person? I
I'm
mean,
not. Look, here, I'll give you an example of how unromantic I am.
yeah.
While we were planning our wedding, she sent, we both sent each other music ideas, our fair stance ideas, all that fun jazz. She sends May I by Trading Yesterday. I sent her back Too Lovey Dovey. So, and then I sent her Welcome to the Horror Show by Bloody Hammers.
Wow.
So let's go off of the fact that I'm not a romantic person at all.
So there had to be a middle ground between Too Lovey Dovey and what you were offering for this. You're the song of your choice.
Well, to be fair, my choice was in a sense a warning to her because now she's in a horror show being stuck with me for the rest of her life.
So
they get attacked in her apartment.
Well, actually, one thing I want to mention is, I guess, interesting enough, the people that made the mask for this movie are the people that made the mask for Totally Killer, Happy Death Day. It was the same people making the mask here. So the mask does, these movies are starting to have like this. I mean, the Thanksgiving Killer had I think a different mask for sure, but they all sort of start to have the same feel to me. It feels like the same kind of mask killer in all these movies. I do think the Valentine mask is better than this mask. I'll say that. But let's talk about this apartment thing because so we have to kind of skip ahead a bit because later on it's revealed that originally
who's doing the attacking.
It was going to be but originally it wasn't going to be them being attacked. It was the other couple, the ex-boyfriend. But then they saw Jay and her kiss, and they're like, whoa, look at that chemistry. Let's go after them instead. Now, help me understand. The movie in the context of, okay, they just decided that this is the couple we're going after. Jay and her jump into a cab and go back to her apartment.
Yes.
The killer's already inside her closet at the apartment.
Well,
20 minutes later, and they just decided that, hey, let's aim for them, and they get in a cab and immediately head back to the apartment. Huh? The killer being in the closet part feels more sort of like something like more like we've been planning this throughout the, like that seems like more premeditated. They had to either, first of all, even just looking at them, you have to know their names. You have to find now they can find the address because I guess she's a cop, so it's like let's put them in the database. But you have to find their names, find their address, physically get there before they do because they're literally in a cab on the way back to the apartment. I'm not saying plot hole, but it does seem kind of like, huh?
It kind of is because how did they get in the apartment too? Remember, Jay had to break. Well, I guess it's the it's the key.
But I think the important thing also is like, was there a moment when they're in the apartment where you can buy the idea that the killer sneaks in and then into the closet? Because there's two things. There's either when they get the apartment, the killer's already there in the closet, or while they're there in the apartment, they're not paying attention. But it feels very bold for the killer to be like, while they're in the apartment, I'm going to actually walk in and then go hide in the closet. That seems like too much risk to actually getting caught. But if they were distracted, maybe there's a moment there where the killer kind of got in.
I don't think so, unless maybe because it is, what is this, New York? or Chicago, one of those big cities.
Chicago, I
So
believe. Yeah.
most likely this place actually has a fire escape.
Yeah, there we go. Okay.
And there's also a good chance that this girl maybe, because she's from a smaller town, she maybe doesn't lock her windows.
Yeah.
Or it's February, so it'll be chilly out. Or maybe she likes a little bit of chill, so she keeps the window cracked just enough.
Yeah.
Either way, maybe the killer got into the fire escape.
The fire escape seems like the most likely scenario. But like I said, there's just I just think that I don't know if that holds up on a repeat viewing because you're just like, wait a minute. You're saying they just literally started targeting them and then they're already in the closet 20 minutes later. It does seem kind of like it's almost like they had written the scene that way, but then at the end they gave this new twist, but you're like, yeah, but that doesn't really make sense with that earlier, like how quickly. But either way, now that said, this closet scene, I mean, this is a fun scene because they're in the right smack dab middle of like a romantic moment.
Right.
Like this goes from 0 to 100 in terms of the killer coming in, and it switches back to like horror mode.
I think this is actually where I feel more like it's turning into more of an action thriller, because it's not like our characters just run out, get chased. No, they literally try to fight this person off.
They say which character was in the closet, right? It was Jordana Brewster.
Yeah, it was it was Jordana Brewster's character. So it was a female, which means
okay. Answer me this. Let's go with the idea that yes, they target him. Let's say they use X-ray vision and see their wallets. Oh, that's the name. That's their address. Or Jordana Brewster's like, okay, let me put in my cop system and find their address. There's three killers.
Yes.
Two guys and Jordana.
Yes.
They're talking, okay, which one of us should hide in the closet and then come out and kill the guy and the girl? And Jordana's like, hey, I'll do it. I mean, I gotta shouldn't when the guys be like, well, yeah, but the dude's actually a pretty big, strong dude. Like, you sure you want to like come out of the closet and like have to face both of them? Like, was this smart on the cusp part? It feels like when the dude should have been in the closet, not her.
Yeah, well,
she had that ghost face strength, I guess. That
she did, because she tackled him straight to the wall and then held him really with one hand as she was winding up the knife to get him with the second hand. So she overpowered him.
This is the most egregious thing since Dewey's death scene. Scream 5.
Dewey's death is not that egregious.
Yeah, egregious.
No, egregious is the whole ending to part 6. Okay.
That girl was 80 pounds, right? Agreed.
For one, Jordana Brewster is not a girl. She is a woman. Get it right.
No, I'm
for her age, she's a beautiful woman.
First of all, I'm talking about Scream with Dewey. That girl was 80 pounds, all right? Jordana Brewster is actually like, I can buy her being like strong and like that. I just think that if it's her hiding in the closet to kill the girl, I understand. She's like, yeah, I got this. But it's like she's coming out of the closet and like she sees like a big, strong dude. They're like, I feel like they get into a tussle. He's throwing her ass across the apartment. But obviously, that ghost, when you put the mask on, it all becomes super.
It's the Ghostface mantra. Once that mask comes on, you are literally a 6 foot tall buff stuntman at that point.
Now, listen, here's how I know, or I have some doubts about this relationship working out in the long term. Because I know the thing with relationships is there's tough times and you got to stick it out, all right? But in this case, when the chips are down, she leaves him, him to die.
Her to do? Fucking leaves him, carry his ass.
She runs away, leaving him for dead.
What would you expect? Because at that point, he was not any help to her no more. I actually completely agree with what she did. Because she, and in fact, technically, she is the reason why he's alive. Because if she tried to stay and fight, they both would be dead. Because he was unconscious, he would not have been able to get up and actually, get the killer off of her again. Well, so the best thing for her was distract the killer and run, make herself act like more of a prey than the unconscious victim.
Oh no, I agree with you. I'm just making a joke because it's like and it
That's
becomes a thing.
the whole movie.
It becomes a thing in the movie, and I'm like, yeah, your survival instinct is, hey, let me run the hell out of here. And her argument of like, hey, you're a, well, I guess they're both right because she's like, you're a big strong man, and he's like, I'm like unconscious on the ground, like.
Well, his is actually funny because it's like, whoa, my muscles were not made for fighting; they were made for cuddling. I'm sorry,
Yeah.
I laugh. I always laugh at that. I've watched this movie. I watched the movie just today, and I was laughing at that scene.
Yeah, and that's what I'm like saying in terms of like I do think most of the comedy works. If you go in the mindset of comedy, I think you're fine. But I'll give you an example. I think that everything here at the police station, I don't necessarily like. It feels like this kind of slogs the movie down into too much of the actual killer story. You don't get the comedy here. And then I don't know why the lighting is so dark at the police station that you can't see shit.
Well,
But that was kind of
I say I'm fine with the lighting to an extent. I was not fine when the lighting started doing the strobe light effect.
yeah.
Because as much as I'm not epileptic, that is still an annoying way to light up a scene.
Yeah. I just like for me, like I don't a lot of newer movies sometimes I just feel like the lighting is off. I feel like I don't understand sometimes why things are so dark in certain scenes. I'm like,
It's to mask any potential like CGI, even though this movie had hardly any CGI.
yeah.
If you put it at dark with a dark complexion, you cannot really tell it's CGI.
Yeah. I just for me, like I'm like not to say I would skip it, but I do feel like there's about like 20 minutes here at the police station that I'm like, I feel like the movie picks up the energy again once they get out the police station. But there's something about them here for like 20, 25 minutes where it just like, it was for me, it's a boring setting. And just, let me give an example. This whole thing about with Jay, he happened to be in the cities where the killings took place.
Yeah.
First of all, knowing that they just randomly target them, that's like just like a weird coincidence that goes nowhere. Like, that's a super coincidence that they put in there for no reason. Like, okay, this randomly targeted couple and the guy just happens to have been in the same city at the time of the killings.
Don't forget the ring.
Yeah.
The ring had JS on it.
Yeah, I mean, I felt like, okay, it seemed like they were actually framing him for like the last couple years based on this, right? Like, it still doesn't jive to me that this is a random couple they picked to like do because like this all feels like they're framing Jay or they've been framing him. But then they just like it goes nowhere. They just throw in the random thing of like, oh, you were in the city. It's like, well, that's a 1 in a million coincidence that we're not even talking about the same cities in different cities at the exact time. That's just like too much of a coincidence. I would have taken that out. And also when she's questioning Jay, this is the perfect time to throw in either a Scream 6 reference, some kind of Scream reference, or have Devon Sawa throw in some kind of Idle Hands or Final Destination reference. If you're going to use these characters and you're making fun of like horror movies and stuff, man, you could have done something and it would have been perfect if Jay's character was somebody who in one of those cities, maybe it was his ex-girlfriend that had gotten attacked or something and he got away. Then you could have made a connection there to make it make more sense, I feel like.
You know what's funny? The fact that as you bring it up, you know, you got Devon Sawa, you have Jordana Brewster, and you have the Gooding, Mason Gooding. Yet none of their movies really get referenced. You don't hear anything about The Faculty or, as you brought up, Final Destination or Scream.
Wow.
However,
there is one.
Oh, there is?
Yeah. Well, what are you going to say? Because you might be thinking the same thing.
The movie they decide to reference, though, and I'm assuming it's probably because the creators are like, hey, we like this movie, hurry up and make the sequel, is fucking Hobbs and Shaw.
That's exactly what I was going to say. The one thing they referenced was because Jordana Brewster is connected to the Fast and the Furious universe. Think about that.
Well, she is, but she's not. Movies. But in a sense, she's not connected to the Hobbs and Shaw if that one becomes its own franchise.
It's not. I don't think they're doing that. So
I mean, they keep mentioning there's a sequel coming out. They even say that they got Idris Elba to come back for it, and I'm still sitting there thinking to myself, Either make the movie or stop talking about it at this point.
I don't know. I feel like if they were gonna do it, I feel like they would have already been working on it because it's been what
So
now? It's probably been what, like 5 years now?
it has, but last I heard, they didn't want to work on it until after they were done with this the
Mm,
Fast and Furious, this whole Reyes trilogy they were doing, which means we still got to get allegedly Hobbs and Reyes, which I don't see that coming out.
yeah. Huh.
And then, of course, Fast X Part 2.
Yeah, I don't know. I like Hobbs and Shaw, but yeah, that was kind of random to reference that here. I you know, the thing about these days, we've seen it a lot lately, but when you have a pretty well-known actor or actress cast in a horror movie, you immediately suspect them as the killer because you're like, well, they probably were interested in doing this. They read the script like, oh, I get to be the killer. But we saw it in Thanksgiving, we saw it in Scream 6, we see it here. Also, I mean, the cop being the killer is starting to be like a huge cliche. Like we need just the cop to stop the it does make sense. It's like the person investigating has the leg up to be the killer, but I mean, Scream 6, Thanksgiving, this movie, too much.
You know what I,
Too much.
you know what it is? It's these new age movies, and remember the people. I hate to do this whole political bit, but there are a lot of people who do not feel safe with cops. So now that's turning into a cliche, not only in movies but also real life. So they're just throwing that out there into movies along with it.
What happened the days when we had cops like Deputy Dewey here to protect and serve, help our characters, get stabbed in the back 85 times, live to the next movie. Now
Well,
all the cops are always the killers now.
well, you know what it is, right? People are tired of Officers Dylan Doe from damn Halloween 5.
Oh, this is the
Because
worst.
let's face it, unless the cop is the killer, most of the time the cops are extremely incompetent.
I've been saying it. I mean, the cops in horror movies are the worst always, but it's got the reaction that has been let's make them the killer.
Unless it's also John Saxon, that cop's usually pretty good.
Oh yeah. Well, that's what I'm saying. Back in the day, we had a good cop. But so the thing is, like this movie, in terms of who done it, it doesn't give you a lot of options. You can pretty quickly,
especially after killing off Devon Sawa real quick.
Yeah, you're already like.
I think I even said I believe it's Devon Sawa.
Yeah, you're thinking him or Jordana, basically, and Jordana does act weird at the beginning when they're investigating the crime scene.
She acts weird the whole damn movie, especially since she gives those damn serial killer eyes the whole movie.
She points out at the beginning that it could be a woman killer. She's matching on her dating app at the crime scene, like now, Messenger Boy. So
now we'll say you mentioned the police station scene. There is one thing I wanted to mention, and that is, so we do get a very soft look at our second killer that we don't, and this is the only time we see him. Of David, the Wi-Fi guy.
Yeah.
And I will say that this movie has at least 2 or 3 different clues of who the killers are, like the wedding ring with the initials JS. You know, you got Jay Simmons, but then you also got Janine Shaw. I mean, come on now, you're beating that over the head. You might as well just had her as a reveal. And then you got this Wi-Fi guy who does look at Allie and go, I recognize you from somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
Sure, on the first watch, it's like, okay, you're just some creepy guy who's probably going to die, or you're one of the killers, because at this point, you're expecting 2 killers.
The problem is he's there for that one scene. So you're immediately like, as the movie goes on, you're like, well,
that was a weird interaction.
He must be the killer. Otherwise, like, why? What was that scene about? Like, he has no other place in the movie. So what was the purpose if not to? So it kind of like made you think like, okay, and there's always 2 killers now. So like, okay, he's working with either Devon Sawa or Jordana. Someone said something online that it's actually really smart. So like, this killer, the MO basically is to like kill couples, right? Specifically couples.
Yeah.
So like, the dude could have been like asking her out to really see how serious she is about the guy. Because if she's like, oh, thanks, but I'm seeing somebody, or, I'm in a relationship. Because let's say they don't know. They're like, well, we saw them kiss, but let's make sure they're a couple. So the dude could have been doing something brilliant where he's like trying to find out how serious she is. And if she's like, hey, I have a boyfriend, then he's like, oh, let's go, let's kill them. Yeah. So if you frame it that way, it's actually a smart thing. And then she could have been, she could have been lying, just saying, sometimes, she could have been like saying, I have a boyfriend, just to like
get him away.
But either way, in that same thing, it'd have been like, oh, well, let's, or if she's like, oh yeah, sure, let me get your number, let's go out. Then they got to be like, oh, well, they're not a couple. Maybe that kills the whole thing. They're just like, because their kink is obviously couples, so they're like, well, they're not a couple.
And Jordana Brewster was pretty much doing the same thing with Jay in the scene as well when she was interrogating him, because she didn't ask him much questions about the whole kills. Yeah, what she, I think she only asked one with the whole, yeah, you were in those cities. But most of his questions was, how do you know Allie?
Yeah, she acts on a rewatch, especially. You can tell she acts weird in every scene. She seems like the killer. Something's off. Like Devon Sawa, for the most part, I think acts like a normal cop. She does act off, basically, in her scenes.
And it's even funnier because Devon Sawa is like, "Can you shut up, please?"
Yeah. Once Devon Sawa dies, though, it becomes super obvious. And then Jordana kind of disappears for a while. Becomes super obvious. But what I did know is there's a third killer. There's a third guy.
Yep, the third guy is the one that
fanboy.
Yep, and he chases them to a drive-in where our characters get a very weird, long interaction in a sex van.
Yeah.
And I'm surprised I understand our killer is looking for them, but with how loud this couple's being, I'm surprised he didn't just open the door and just straight up murder them immediately.
It's like, I'm gonna turn this damn sound off right now.
Right.
For this couple.
Which that was actually a really fun and good kill, by the way. I think that is actually one of my complaints about this movie. There's not much tension built into this. All the kills are pretty quick and fast-paced, which is why I feel it's more of an action thriller than it is a horror, because horror has that tension. Action is just fast-paced, everything happens quick.
The reason they can't do the tension is because the in-between moments are dedicated to like romantic moments or comedic moments. So then they want to do a thing where you immediately jump to like, oh, the horror's back now, the killer's here. Like literally in a second, they want to go from something funny or romantic to like the killer's here. But because of that, you're right. You're not getting any tension or any build to the horror. It's just like, it's suddenly here again. It's like, oh, romance ends, killer's back. I don't know if that's what I'm saying. The tone is kind of all over the place. I get what they're trying to do. They're trying to like have the cake and eat it too, of like, hey, we can do both. We can do the horror and the comedy, but as a horror comedy, I would say this is a fail. Like I said, I like the comedy part of it, but you just kind of like, the audience kind of like, huh? When it cuts like the killer, it's kind of like it comes out of nowhere.
Yeah, because when it comes to horror, I mean, granted, it's the fact that they're trying to mash in a third genre of romance to this. Because horror comedy, you can still get a lot of that good tension. I mean, look at Faculty. Has a lot of good tension, and you got a lot of comedy, but you also got very minimal amount of romance, which usually works.
But that horror comedy thing, it is very hard. Some movies can find that balance that's perfect, but some movies you can tell they're sacrificing the horror for the comedy or the sacrifice of the comedy. It's hard to get that right sometimes.
Yeah, well, that's because Vampire in Brooklyn is still a popular movie.
Well, I like Vampire in Brooklyn, but I like Vampire in Brooklyn the same way I like this movie, where it's like, I think the comedy in Vampire in Brooklyn work. I think the comedy works, but I think anytime they try to be like scary in Vampire in Brooklyn, you're just like, come on, I'm not taking this horror seriously. That's kind of how I feel about this.
But this one, like, especially this drive-in scene, it's just an action-packed scene with the killer going around. Yeah, you're killing people, but let's face it, it feels more like you're watching an action movie at this point than you are a horror. Because then you got your characters coming in and they have a physical fight with this guy.
So let me get your opinion on this, because I read this online too. I saw a discussion about this, and it's actually kind of interesting. So given we're saying basically the movie definitely is mostly more so the romantic comedy, I would say, than the killer part of it. Would you have been okay with just literally this is the ending of the killer? They kill him here at the drive-in. They take off the mask. It's some random guy, and now the last like 20 minutes of the movie are just like dedicated to like romantic comedy stuff. In
I would,
hindsight, in
I would
hindsight,
have been.
I would have been okay too. Like I don't. We'll talk about the ending in a few minutes, but I don't know if the ending is actually like a good ending in terms of like all this stuff we get with Jordana. I'd have been okay with just being like, okay, this was the killer part of the movie. They solved it, and now just give us like a final 20 minutes of like just them doing romantic comedy stuff. Or I don't know, but I I don't know. I was thinking about it, I was like, okay, in the moment you feel like, oh, that can't be the killer. It's gotta be somebody we know. It almost would have been more original just to be like, oh, damn, the killer was like some random person. It wasn't Jordana. It would have also been more, it would have felt more like, oh, well, they did something different. Like,
Yeah,
I don't know.
like I said, because I definitely agree. I would have preferred that over, because there's two ways I prefer the ending over what we actually got. I would have preferred the ending as what you just brought up, a full romantic comedy type ending. She gets to the airport station. She gets to the airport. They have their big romantic moment in the middle of the airport. That would have been fine. And then you cut to a year later, and you still can get your whole marriage proposal.
I found myself hoping, like, being like, oh man, this is gonna be like Jordana kidnapped him and like he's like tied up somewhere. And I was thinking like it'd just be nice just to, like they meet at the airport and then you just end the movie. I'm like we
Right.
like I was expecting like because again like with like say Thanksgiving, Scream 6, the weak point of the movies always seem to be like when the killer reveals their plan and reveals themselves. It always those scenes have become so over the top in horror. The killer has to give the big explanation, and you get like the flashbacks and stuff. It's like I'm kind of over it. Like I need something different than the typical killer reveal that we get sometimes.
Yeah, and I will say, jumping to the climax here, because now this climax then goes into attempting to be a horror climax. You get your little minor scrapes here and there, but it feels more like still kind of a cat and mouse type thing going on. Whereas the way this movie's been portrayed, the way they moved around throughout the movie, and all the action we got, what I think they should have done is did the fake death for Jordana Brewster, when she got shot, and let her stay down for most of the climax, and just let this guy go insane on both these two characters.
Yeah,
Because he kind of does, and he starts screaming, and then all of a sudden he's back to being calm.
well, the guy because he only has that one scene earlier. It's yeah, he kind of gets the short end because it feels like he's immediately has to be Jordana's sidekick because it's like we've seen her throughout the movie, so we just know she's like the main villain. So he kind of gets shortchanged in that role. That's kind of like, oh, this guy really doesn't matter. Like so I don't know.
So I feel like they should have just let us believe. Obviously we would not have believed it, but let him, our third killer, believe that his wife is now dead. So he just goes on a beating spree and just gets this fun fight scene. Because again, this movie's had them, so you can't say it's a horror movie. You can't have fight scenes. But this movie's had them throughout the movie, so we might as well just gotten one more.
Yeah.
And then get our fun little fight scene with this guy beating both of them before they finally kill him. And then Jordana comes in and we get our headshot.
For the killers, it seemed like the smarter move here was to actually lay low because think about this. Your third killer got caught, right? So the world is like, hey, we caught the killer. they can go disappear for like a year and then come back. But
so that's the weird thing about kinks. You can't. It's somehow in your head that you just can't stop.
They had like what is the like they had to do this whole reveal thing where they give the big explanation. It's like just kill. And then we've seen it a couple times. It never works out, but like giving a weapon to the the victim. What is the logic there?
I will say, at least they did something a little different because usually, like the killers give them almost a full mag or all the chambers are filled with bullets. Whereas this time they're like, we gave you one, you can use it on yourself or him. It's like, okay, that's fine, but at the same time, why? Because obviously, if the person's thinking, they can just do what she did. Shoot him through a meat spot that goes straight through and hits her because of the way he was sitting and the way she was standing.
Yeah, they turn them into like psychotic idiots at the end. I mean, really stupid people, but yeah, I mean, it's overall, it's a fun sort of climax. Again, the lighting is dark. I don't understand why none of these scenes are like well lit, but maybe it's my TV, but it just seems so dark.
Overall, this climax is it feels like just a traditional horror movie climax, and at this point, it's like, don't give me a horror climax because this movie really isn't horror. There's no horror to this movie past those first 10 minutes. It is either romantic comedy or it is in the action realm for me.
Yeah. It's also, it's very coincidental that the one they killed at the drive-in just happened to be the one killer that didn't matter. like these two were like in on their own plot together, and then you had the third killer being like some random tag along. But it wasn't. But that happened to be the one killer that got killed early was the one that didn't matter. They don't give a damn about that third killer at the end. They're like, it's just a fanboy. It's like they should have made that, like, you could have added some emotional thing. Maybe that was like Jordana's brother that got like something where she's actually pissed off now. Like, you killed my brother or something. Like,
so the weird thing about that was was when she goes, "Oh, you were a couple," because she didn't know Jordana when she asked the dude. It's like, no, we were a throuple. So I'm like, okay, so there should have been an emotional connection if y'all were a throuple then.
Yeah.
And then you're like, oh no, he was just a fanboy. It's like, make up your mind. Was he part of your love? Was he part of y'all's weird love kink thing? Or was he just some random copycat killer?
It seemed like he was there to be the fall guy, which I'm like, okay, he was the fall guy here. Like, the police, like, that's what I'm saying, lay low. Like, but the other thing I want to talk about too is, like, logistically, let's talk about the idea that these two are killers who kill people in different cities. How does that happen practically? Jordana is a local cop in her city. Like, she's like, they're like once a year, like taking months out to go to different cities, different states to kill people.
Well,
it doesn't seem practical.
Are they local cops? I thought they were. Are they just detectives? I thought they were part of the FBI.
I would assume that that's like they're specifically in that jurisdiction, though. I didn't feel like they were. I don't. Even then, like, is she taking a leave of absence to go to these other, like, are they like? Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's kind of like,
if they're FBI, then technically they can send her anywhere, so she could end up, committing murders in areas she's working in. If FBI, if she's just a regular detective, then it's leave of absence. But then,
I mean, they're doing their work
to attack people in her home state.
They're doing their investigating all like at the local precinct. I feel like they're just local detectives.
Well, I mean, if you're FBI in a small town, you're not going to have your own precinct.
But doesn't FBI just work out of DC though? I don't. Every town doesn't have like FBI just like as local agents, I don't think. But
no, so you have to use their local police precinct as your base of operations if you're FBI traveling to another state.
I guess we need to go back and see, like, did they ever at any point say FBI? That's the only thing. To me, it feels like they're just local cops. I didn't see anything special about them. But
again, if they're local cops, then that is Jordana's mess up, because then why hunt in your own state?
True. Well, you can make a point that if she is the one handling the case, then as the killer, you have all the insight to like what's going on, so you can better kill, because you can be like, oh, well, nobody's on my track. I'm the killer. They're not on my track because I'm the one investigating. So it's kind of again, the Thanksgiving Scream 6 thing where, like, it makes sense if you're the cop who's the killer, because you're like, well, I'm not going to catch myself. So I can make sure the scent is away from me.
The problem is, you do it long enough, you're eventually going to mess up, because, I didn't watch past Saw 5. But one of the main villains of the Saw franchise is Hoffman, and he's a cop. Eventually, they find out who he is, and he just goes on a full-blown Terminator killing spree in a cop station because they knew who he was.
Damn.
And he was a cop, so he also was hiding his trail. He did it fine, but eventually they found out who he was. So eventually, they're going to find out who John Carver was in Thanksgiving. They're going to find out who the Hard Eyes Killer is in this. It just takes you to mess up once. And the fact that if you're not solving the case, they're going to replace you with someone else.
Yeah. I just think that the smart move was probably after the dude got killed was to like lay low, come back a year later in a different area, different people, let this one go. They weren't thinking at the end here. It was just stupid.
No, they're thinking with the wrong head.
Yeah, well,
it is a kink.
Saint Valentine. So, but we do get roundabout back to our normal romantic comedy ending. The best friend is back finally in our ending. Yeah, like I said, in hindsight, I'm like, I would have wrapped up the killer stuff at the drive-in. Even if it's Jordana, I would just wrapped it up in the drive-in park. Let's take off the mask, reveal it's Jordana. Whatever her reason is, anything better than this, this cliched reveal scene. But all that said, for me, still a fun movie. You got to get in there with the right mindset, romantic comedy with a hint of slasher stuff, but don't go in expecting a full-blown slasher with like a high body count. There's a decent body count, I guess, but there's a lot of random bystanders that get killed pretty brutally. That were just like random bystanders for sure.
Well, maybe next time tell that one girl at the drive-in not to sit there, not to just stop in front of the killer and scream. Because that's how she died. She just random person stops in front of.
What about the driver that got killed? That was pretty crazy too. The killer really is like John Wick throughout the movie. With the mask on, the killer can throw anything, has perfect aim on his shots, everything's perfect.
Yeah, well, speaking of John Wick, I saw Ballerina.
I know you did. So
just thought you'd like to know that.
You told me.
Just don't watch it in theaters. Just save your money until it's streaming.
Well, all that
as always, folks, you don't have to go home. You do have to look in your closet. If your fiance, wife, boyfriend, husband, whatever has a Hard Eyes Killer outfit, divorce him quick.
You didn't really give any final thoughts on how you actually feel about the movie. Yeah. You just go straight to the ending. Nobody knows how you feel about the movie based on anything you said. So I'm just saying this is supposed to be a movie. This is supposed to be a review. Also, I mean,
okay. Since Vic read between the lines,
I gave actual final thoughts, but now we've just settled into you giving no final thoughts.
Okay, fine. My final thoughts is fun movie. And even if you go in with the wrong mindset, the movie quickly forces you into a different mindset.
Yeah.
So, and overall, the movie is definitely a good movie. It's fun, good acting, decent music. The score is nothing to write home about. Probably the lowest point of this movie is the score. And then overall, I just wish the ending was different from what we actually got. But overall, watch it. It's on Netflix. Have a fun time. If your girlfriend doesn't like horror, she will still enjoy it.
Fair points. All right, folks. Until next time, you guys.
Already said my piece.
So